Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to dive into how the digital revolution, computers, the internet, and now AI, hasn't just given designers a new box of toys. It's completely flipped the script on what design even is and how it shapes, well, pretty much everything in our lives.
And to really get this, I want to start with a little story, a tale of two desks. We're going to take a peek into two very different design studios separated by only a few decades. And trust me, you'll see just how massive this change really is.
Okay, so picture it. It's 1985. You walk into a design studio and it smells like rubber cement and Sharpies. Designers are literally cutting and pasting with X-Acto knives. Their hands are covered in ink, and if you make one tiny mistake, you have to start all over again. Okay, now let's jump to today. There's a single laptop, that's it. It connects a designer to a collaborator halfway across the world in Tokyo, while an AI is suggesting layouts on the fly. Revisions that used to take days, now they're done in minutes.
So, what happened? How did we get from there to here? Well, that huge leap wasn't just about getting cooler tools. It was a complete shift in what design is, who gets to be a designer, and how design has become the silent architect of our world. It all happened in three big waves. All right, so the first big wave hits with the personal computer. All of a sudden, these super powerful machines are showing up in our homes and offices. But they came with a brand new problem that designers had to solve. How on earth do you make a machine that a normal person can actually use?
You gotta remember, early computers were not friendly. They didn't speak our language. They thought in ones and zeros and complicated code. So this whole new field of interface design was basically born to be the translator, to build a bridge between how our human brains work and how these machines do.
And this was the game changer. Instead of having to memorize a bunch of weird commands like copy file 1.txt, you could now just see an icon for your file and drag it with a mouse. I mean, this didn't just make computers easier to use, it literally democratized them. The machine was finally starting to learn our language, not the other way around.
The key, the big idea that opened the floodgates for millions of people, was this thing called skeuomorphic design. The idea was so simple, but honestly, it was revolutionary. Just make the new digital stuff look and act like the old physical stuff people already understood. You know, designers at a place called Xerox PARC asked this brilliant question. What if we just made the computer screen feel like an office desk? And that's exactly why we have digital folders for our files, why we drag things around, and why we throw stuff in a trash bin. These metaphors didn't just make computers usable. For the very first time, they made them thinkable for the average person.
Okay, so just when designers had finally cracked the code on making computers make sense, bam, a whole new challenge drops in, the internet. And with it came a totally new kind of chaos, this infinite, messy library of information. The designer's next job was to try and tame this digital Wild West.
And this is where a whole new field popped up: information architecture. Think of it like this. It's about designing the invisible blueprint for a website before you ever start thinking about colors or fonts. It's all about creating a structure that just makes sense, so people can find what they're looking for without even thinking about it. At first, designers treated websites kinda like fixed magazine pages, but that model broke the second people started looking at them on different-sized screens. The big breakthrough was a principle called responsive design, and it's summed up perfectly by this idea that your content is like water. It should just flow and adapt to whatever container you pour it into, whether that's a tiny phone, a tablet, or a huge desktop monitor. So as designers started building out the web, a few key patterns emerged to guide us around. You've got the hub and spoke of something like Google, where you always go out and come back to the middle. You've got the linear path, like when you're checking out of an online store, step by step. And then, of course, there's the one we all know, the infinite scroll, which fixed the problem of clicking next page forever, but, well, created a whole new one, the endless, addictive feed.
All right, and that brings us right up to today, to the absolute cutting edge. This is where the designer's job is changing yet again, and this time it's a big one. The role is shifting from someone who makes things to someone who teaches algorithms how to make things.
Okay, get this. Think about Netflix. They don't show the same picture for a movie to everyone. No way! An AI actually looks at your personal viewing history and picks the exact thumbnail. Maybe it's an action shot, maybe it's a romantic close-up, that it predicts you are most likely to click on. See, the designer's job wasn't to make one perfect poster. It was to build a system that can create thousands of personalized ones automatically.
I mean, this just completely flips the old design process upside down. The designer isn't making just one thing anymore. Instead, they set the rules, they define the goals, and they lay out the constraints. Then the computer goes nuts and generates tons of options, and the designer becomes more of a curator or a conductor, guiding the system that's doing the actual creating.
But, and this is a huge but, all this new power comes with some serious ethical baggage. AI learns from the data we feed it, right? So if our data is biased, guess what? The AI is going to be biased too. This forces designers to wrestle with some really tough questions about fairness, transparency, and even what happens to their own skills in the long run.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. After all these revolutions, the PC, the web, AI, what does it actually mean to be a designer in the world today? How has the job been completely redefined?
Probably the biggest shift of all is this move away from designing, well, finished things. Designers today don't really make projects with a clear beginning and end. They build these huge interconnected ecosystems, like an app or a service, that are living, breathing things. They are never really done. They're constantly being tweaked and updated based on how we use them.
And this, right here, is maybe the biggest dilemma a designer faces today. On one side, you have the data. The numbers don't lie, right? They tell you exactly how to get more clicks, more engagement. But then, on the other side, human-centered design pipes up and asks a much tougher question. Is what's best according to the data also what's best for the actual human being?
And seriously, there's no easy answer here. When the data says a feature like autoplay will boost viewing time, what do you do? Do you use it, even if you know it might contribute to unhealthy habits? This question isn't some side issue anymore. It's right at the heart of a designer's new role as an architect of our daily lives and our society.
You know, this tension has basically split the design world into a few different camps. First, you've got the optimizer, who's all about using data to crush business goals. Then there's the humanist, who believes design's main job is to help people flourish. And you also have the artist, who uses design to poke holes in the systems and make us think. Every designer working today is juggling these ideas whether they know it or not.
And really, it all boils down to this. The incredible power that these digital tools give designers, it's not good or evil. The tools themselves are neutral. An algorithm can be used to recommend a life-saving medical article, or it can be used to push dangerous misinformation. The outcome is a direct reflection of the values and the choices of the people building the system. And that really is where we land, as design becomes this invisible force shaping how we live, work, and connect. This is no longer a question just for designers, not by a long shot. It's a question for every single one of us living in the world they're building. What kind of digital world do we actually want?